Hello friends, welcome back to the channel. I'm the GM Philosopher, and today we're talking about the 5 coolest D&D gods and goddesses ranked. Keep in mind before we get started that this is my personal interpretation, and I pull these gods and goddesses from a plethora of different pantheons. These are gods and goddesses that I have run in my games and had as gods and goddesses in some of my campaigns, and they've been some of the most influential in my campaigns, and so that's why I'm talking about them. But what do you think? Do you have some favorite gods and goddesses? Drop me a comment, let me know. Keep that conversation going. If you have some that you believe should have made it on this list, drop me a comment and tell me why you think that, and I will take a closer look at them, consider running them sometime. At the very least, look at them and appreciate the awesomeness. With that being said, don't forget to smash that thumbs up button like you were smashing an evil troll in the desert. It helps me grow my channel, helps my video get shown to more people, and I will be forever grateful. Thank you so much. All right, let's dive into it. Starting in at number 5, we have Selûne, also known as Our Lady of Silver, the Moon Maiden, and the Night White Lady. She was the goddess of the moon in the Faerunian pantheon. This is according to Forgotten Realms fandom wiki. Her alignment is chaotic good. Her symbol are a pair of eyes surrounded by 7 stars. Her domains are knowledge, life, and twilight. In the 14th and 15th centuries DR, she held the portfolios of the moon, stars, navigation, navigators, wanderers, questers, seekers, and all non-evil lycanthropes. In the time of ancient Nerull, when she was a greater goddess, she held the portfolios of the moon, moonlight, and stars, beauty and purity, love and marriage, navigation and navigators, tracking, wanderers, and seekers, diviners and dreams, good and natural lycanthropes, and autumn. Hers was the moon's mysterious power, the heavenly force that governed the world's tides and a mother's reproductive cycles, caused lycanthropes to shift form, and drew one to the brink of madness and back again. Her nature, appearance, and mood all changed in turn with the phases of the moon. I love Selûne because of her symbology relating to the moon. I once ran a paladin of Selûne. It was a super fun halfling paladin, and she worshipped the goddess of the moon and would pray at night before she went to bed for her spells, and would wake up before the moon set to pray once again. And she loved to look at the water and the moon's reflection in it. Altogether, solid god. One of my favorites, definitely number 5. Coming in at number 4, we have Helm. According to Forgotten Realms fandom wiki, Helm was the Faerunian god of guardians and protectors, worshipped by guards and paladins both. His alignment was lawful neutral, symbol, an upright left gauntlet with a staring eye on it. Domains were life, light, and twilight. A very old deity, Helm was the eternal sentry and was always seen wearing a full suit of armor that represented the weight of his heavy responsibility. Yet Helm always got the job done without complaint. The people of the realms widely admired these qualities and what they saw as a humble and reassuring god. Helm was particularly fond of children and often forgave their minor transgressions. Helm was very, very lawful. I once ran a cross-class cleric fighter who worshipped Helm. She saw him as being a guardian, a protector of the borders of the realm, and this is what she sought to embody in her fighter kind of like religious life. Altogether, a solid 4 out of 5. Helm is one of my favorite gods. Super cool, super metal, and yeah, solid addition to the list. Now things are going to take a slightly darker turn. Coming in at number 3, my boy Nerull. According to greyhawkonline.com, Nerull is the flan god of death, darkness, murder, and the underworld, worshipped on countless worlds. He is known as the Reaper, the foe of all good, the hater of life, and the bringer of darkness. His alignment is neutral evil. His symbol is a skull and a scythe. His domains are death, evil, pestilence, and trickery. Nerull is usually seen as a black-robed skeleton with a rust-red body and green ropey hair. He carries a staff called Life Cutter that, at his command, grows a scythe blade made of scarlet energy. He flies through the skies, slaying the living and undead alike, crumbling them to dust with a mere touch of his bony finger. Nerull's faithful believe they will be rewarded for acts of murder, for every living thing is an abomination in the eyes of the Reaper. I think Nerull is super metal, and the reason that I was first drawn to him was because in one of the first long-term serious campaigns I ever ran, there was a player playing a wizard necromancer, and they worshipped Nerull, and they got very serious about this worship. They their signature move was to put their victims to sleep and then coup de grace them, and then they would flay them and use their skin to build basically a kind of a skin Muppet pet that would kind of walk around with them, and it would stick to their body, and then they could have it leave their body and it would attack people. I forget exactly what this was called, but it was metal, and dark and gritty, and I loved it so much. I think that Nerull is so fun because when people in game want to worship Nerull, it's like, are you sure? He's the god of murder. He might take just as much pleasure in murdering you as in murdering anyone else. In other words, to please Nerull, you have to just be a dark, dark, dark creature, character who is so dark and so malevolent that your acts of malevolence entertain him more than the thought of him murdering you. And that is what makes Nerull so metal and gritty to play in a game, and love it. With that being said, we're now going to take a turn toward the neutral with Boccob, coming in at number 2. According to Forgotten Realms fandom wiki, in the World of Greyhawk campaign setting and the default pantheon for the 3rd edition of the Dungeons & Dragons game, Boccob is the god of magic, arcane knowledge, balance, and foresight. He is known as the Uncaring, the Lord of all magic, and the Archmage of deities. All times and places are open to him, and he has visited many alternate realities and planes, unknown to the wisest of sages, places even the elder evils avoid. His alignment is true neutral. His symbol is an eye and a pentagon. Usually this is worn as an amulet, and his domains are knowledge, magic, and trickery. The thing that I like about Boccob is sort of the archmage of magic, kind of the greatest wizard. Like, he's the top when it comes to spellcasters. And the reason that I really like him, and the reason I got into Boccob, was because I ran an NPC who was basically this old man who had a hard time remembering things. He basically had short and long-term memory loss, but he was super cool and kind and caring to the party. But one thing he knew was that he would pray to Boccob every single day, and he would get spells. He never really knew what he was getting. He kind of like forgot, but he served as sort of a caring mentor grandpa, albeit dementia, like mind addled grandpa to the party, and he was like super loving and caring. But sometimes Boccob would channel himself through this character. His eyes would glow blue, and he would do something incredible and amazing, and then he would go back to being his forgetful self, and he wouldn't even realize it had happened. I think that Boccob is super cool for that aspect of him being basically the archmage of mages. He's like the arcane god, the greatest wizard of all time. With that being said, he pales in comparison in my world to the power of this number 1 goddess. Number 1 on my list has had the greatest impact in all of my games by far, for a very fundamental reason, and she is to this day one of my absolute favorite goddesses to reference in any sense of the word. However, quick before we jump into that, I want to let you know you can download my free ebook. Link is in the description. Random roll plot arcs wherever you are. Players messing up your plot arcs, random roll a new one with 4 D100 tables. You can print this out, put it in your stuff. It's awesome. You can also join my Discord. Link is in the description. Join my Discord. We have awesome D&D games going on almost all the time. Awesome DMs in there having discussions, sharing artwork, sharing awesome homebrew stuff, talking about the game. It's all about D&D in there, or other TTRPGs. People are playing a lot of other stuff too. But it's really cool time. Join for a sense of community and just have some fun with us, and to jump in the conversation. With that being said, let's talk about my number 1 favorite goddess of all time in D&D, and the most influential. It is Mistral. According to the Forgotten Realms fandom wiki, Mistral, the Lady of Mysteries, was a greater deity and the first incarnation of the goddess of magic. Later incarnations of the goddess were named Mystra. Mistral was most notably known as the being who embodied the weave, the primary source of magic in the cosmos. She supplied and regulated magical energy to all, making possible spells and magical effects. Arcane knowledge and energy, invention and creativity, song time, and the season of spring. Her alignment is chaotic neutral. Her symbol is a single blue-white star. Her domains are good, illusion, knowledge, magic, rune, and spell. The embodiment and consciousness of the weave itself, Mistral could wield magic like no other being. Whereas Boccob is the archmage of magic, the greatest wizard, even Boccob, according to how I can understand it, would be powerless without Mistral, because Mistral is literally the embodiment of magic. I also, in my world state settings, call Mistral and the weave the embodiment of not just magic, but also time. Mistral is a guardian of time as much as she is of magic, and severely punishes those who break temporal laws. I one time had a player create a rift in time by going back in time and meeting themselves. They were perma-banned from the world and forced into servitude for the weave as a servant of Mistral for the end of time. They actually become somewhat of a time lord working for Mistral to enforce the laws of time. And it was a very cool arc, albeit one that did render the character out of the game and the player had to roll a new character. Though that character did come back from time to time to do timey-wimey, Time Lord type stuff. Anyway, in my opinion, Mistral is the single greatest goddess of impact in my world state and all the world states I've had, because she's literally the embodiment of the weave. Anyone who seeks to pursue magic to its root source will inevitably, if they're powerful enough, fortunate enough, and if they are so allowed to approach, will brush up against this cosmic force at some point or another. Those who do so are lucky if they survive its sheer awesomeness. And for that reason, she is number one, my favorite thematically and also just in the lore. Pretty awesome. A little bit more information about her. She had no practical limitations on how many spells she could cast in official lore, how powerful they were, how often she could cast them, or what form they could take. Unless she willed otherwise, she was immune to all spells except those that bypassed her control of the weave and drew on the raw magic from which the weave was woven. She could withhold magic from any entity, making spellcasting impossible and even prevent them from using magical items if she so desired. She could block other deities from accessing the weave, hence why, in my opinion, she's way more powerful than Boccob even, but she could not prevent them from granting spells to their priests through prayer. All things considered, Mistral is my number one favorite goddess and super, super cool and awesome. All right, with that being said, let me know if I have forgotten any. Hey, I'm here almost every day creating content about my favorite game, best game in the world, D&D, so I hope that you'll come back by and watch another video sometime, and I'll see you awesome people on the next one.